You know, in the world of courtroom drama, you hear some pretty wild defenses. Some are brilliant, some are desperate, and then some are just completely bizarre. Today, we're going to dive into a case that hinged on one of the strangest claims you can imagine, a pocket that the defendant swore under oath just never existed. This is the story of the invisible pocket. So, picture this. The police find a bullet in your pocket. That sounds like an open and shut case, right? Game over. But what if your defense is that the pocket itself, well, it's a complete figment of their imagination? I mean, it sounds totally desperate and impossible claim, but as you're about to see, this one bizarre detail is the key to unraveling a whole web of lies, and honestly, witnessing a masterclass in courtroom strategy. All right, so let's get into it. Our story starts with the defendant, a man named Jainate. And for the prosecution, the case against him seems pretty much airtight. It all begins with what they describe as a routine police raid that turned up some very damning evidence.
So the police report lays it all out, nice and simple. Police Lieutenant Sornchai testified that his team got a tip, went to the location, and boom, they find shot. And during the search, they discover a single .32 caliber bullet in his pocket. To make things even worse for Jot, a handmade pistol was found on the ground right nearby. I mean, on paper, this thing looks like a total slam dunk for the prosecution.
But wait, there's more. The evidence didn't stop with the bullet and the gun. The prosecution's star witness, Lieutenant Sornchai, delivered what really felt like the final nail in the coffin, a full confession, supposedly from Jate himself. He allegedly just admitted to buying the gun for self-protection. So, with physical evidence and a confession, the prosecution must have been thinking their work here was done.
But just when it seems like the case is pretty much decided, the defense starts its counterattack. Jate himself takes the stand. And that straightforward story we've just heard, yeah, it's about to get a whole lot more complicated. His testimony kicks off with a bombshell accusation, and it's aimed directly at the police. Jate flat out says the confession was a lie, that it was a product of coercion. He claims he was pressured to sign papers he didn't even understand, that he was promised a small fine just to make the whole thing go away. He's really trying to paint this picture of a corrupt police force. But okay, if the confession was fake, what about the bullet they found? Well, Jate has an answer for that too. And this right here, this is the heart of the conflict. On one side, you've got the police, with a signed confession and a bullet they say they pulled from Jate's pocket. And on the other side, you've got Jate, who claims that confession was forced, and more importantly, that the police couldn't possibly have found a bullet in his pocket. For one very simple reason, he was only wearing boxers which have no pockets. So this is the incredible question that Jate puts to the court. His entire defense is built on this seemingly physical impossibility. See the logic? If he can prove there was no pocket, then the police officer's testimony has to be a lie, and the whole case against him just falls apart. Now, to back up his story, the defense calls a witness named Supani. Her testimony is supposed to explain how the gun got there in the first place, but as we're about to see, her story raises way more questions than it answers. Okay, you have to hear this. Let's just walk through Supani's testimony. She claims she found the gun in a bag on the side of the road. Now, what's the first thing you would do? Well, she decides not to go to the police station, a building she even admits she rode right past on her bike. And instead, she takes this firearm to Jate's house to ask an old acquaintance she hasn't seen in years if the gun is real. After he apparently told her it was a fake, she just threw it in the bushes where the police later found it. Oh, and the 20 bots she found with the gun? She kept that for snacks. You can imagine the prosecutor, Sornchai, just jumped all over this. He points out that the court is being asked to believe that this woman would just bypass the police station to go consult an old acquaintance about a found firearm. This line of questioning, as you can guess, casts some serious doubt on her credibility. So now we're stuck, right? We have conflicting testimonies, a witness whose story is just full of holes. The case is at a stalemate. It all comes down to one simple, verifiable fact. Was there a pocket or was there not? And the prosecution is about to give us the answer. So the prosecutor calls Joe Fate to the stand one last time. He asks him to confirm his story. You testified the shorts you were wearing had no pockets, correct? And Joe Fate, just full of confidence, doubles down. In front of the entire court, he walks right into the trap. And this is the moment the prosecution plays its trump card.
Prosecutor Sornchai produces a single photograph, just one, taken at the police station on the day of Jate's arrest. He presents it to the court as Exhibit A.
And the photo, it's undeniable. It clearly shows Jate wearing a pair of shorts over his boxers. And those outer shorts, well, what do you know? They have a big, obvious pocket. A pocket more than capable of holding a single .32 caliber bullet, or even a dozen of them. And just like that, with this one single piece of evidence, Jate's entire defense completely crumbles. His claims of police misconduct, the convoluted story from his witness, all of it was built on the foundation of a single, simple lie, the non-existent pocket. And the photograph proves beyond any reasonable doubt that he was lying. And with everyone looking at the photo, the prosecutor delivers the final blow. It's a question with absolutely no escape. Jean had already sworn he hadn't changed clothes. The pocket was there all along, and so was his lie. Checkmate.
Well, once the linchpin of the defense was pulled, the rest of Jay's story just fell apart. The claims of a coerced confession, the bizarre testimony from his friend, it was all seen in a brand new light as just desperate attempts to hide a very simple truth. So, not surprisingly, the court quickly reached its verdict. Jate was found guilty. The truth, which was hidden behind a simple lie about a piece of clothing, had finally and very clearly come to light. You know, this case is a perfect example of that legal principle of reasonable doubt. The prosecution's job is to eliminate any other reasonable explanation for the evidence, besides the defendant's guilt. And by building his entire defense around a provable lie, Jate pretty much did the prosecution's job for them.
When you really boil it all down, this whole case, with its he said, she said testimonies and elaborate stories, was decided by one thing, a single photograph, one undeniable fact that just cut through all the noise.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? In a world that feels so saturated with competing narratives and different versions of events, what's the true power of a single, verifiable fact? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining this explainer.